So welcome everybody to tonight's session. We're going to give a couple minutes here for people to get on and make sure we have everybody before we get started. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time to come out tonight.
Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. That's
Bucky.
part of the deal, right?
Hockey.
Guard dog.
What's his name or her name?
His name's Bucky.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like it. So as I mentioned before, those of you that are just getting on, we're going to give it about another 30 seconds and let everybody get on before we get started here. And welcome to our player development session here with the Boston Bruins and USA Hockey and Mass Hockey. Looks like we have a really good turnout. We're up to almost 90 participants. So no pressure, Paul and Zach.
Yeah, I think we've seen bigger crowds.
Yeah, yes, you have. Yes, you have. And hopefully in the very near future, even bigger. Okay, so it's about 7:02. We're going to get started here, and hopefully some other people will be rolling in as we get started. But again, welcome to tonight's session with Boston Bruins and USA Hockey and Mass Hockey. And my name is Roger Grillo. I'm the regional manager for the American Development Model, which is a program that's with USA Hockey and the NHL. And I'm kind of in charge of player development here in the Northeast. And with us, we have two Boston Bruins players, Zach Senyshyn and Paul Carey. And Zach, why don't you start, just give us a little bit of background where you're from and where you grew up and just a little bit about your journey.
Perfect. Well, first off, thank you very much for having me. I'm Zach Senyshyn. I'm currently 23. I was born in '97 in Ottawa, Canada. Grew up playing all my minor hockey here in Nepean. And then spent my 16-year-old year playing the CCHL, which is a junior A league here in Ottawa. Kind of was deciding OHL, NCAA at that point, and ended up going to the OHL and playing for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds there. And then following that, getting drafted to Boston back in 2015. I finished out 2 more years in the OHL before moving into Providence, and then playing in Providence and with a few games up with Boston the last 2 years.
That's fantastic. And Paul, how about yourself?
Hello, everyone, and thanks, Roger. I am a 32-year-old hockey player from Weymouth, Mass. I grew up playing for the South Shore Kings, a couple other local teams like the River Rats, the Cape Cod Whalers. Bounced around a little bit, went to Thayer Academy, Salisbury School, and then I finished up high school in the USHL. All that was before going to BC for 4 years. Had some good success there, and that allowed me to extend my career and turn pro. And here I am now, 9 years later, still grinding it out.
There you go. Yeah, that's awesome, and great journey. I'm just actually south of you guys. I'm down in Narragansett, Rhode Island, so the south of where you guys have played some games here in Providence, and I've seen you played a number of games up in Boston with the big club as well. So thank you very much for taking the time. It's an honor to be a part of this with you, and really excited to talk about some player development things for the young athletes that are on the call for us tonight. So some things I want the players to think about. I want you to think about the training model versus the competition model. One of the issues that we see in the United States when it comes to player development is a lot of players, parents, and coaches have gravitated towards the competition model, meaning that the really big focus is on who they play with, who they play against, and how many games have we won, and so on and so forth, which becomes pretty important as you get a little bit older. But for those of you younger players, I would say probably 12 or 13 and younger, boy, I'll tell you what, practice is really important. And the training piece of your journey through youth hockey is really critical. And it's going to set the stage for the base of your foundation of the skill package that you have that's going to allow you to have success when you get, hopefully, to the age of these two professional hockey players. Paul, talk to me a little bit about the importance of practice. And obviously you played some prep school hockey, you played some junior hockey. Talk to me about, and you played college hockey. And so talk to me about that practice to game ratio, going through those three different levels and how important that was to your development.
Practice was a major component to my development growing up. When you live in Boston and you grow up playing in the leagues around here, high school, and even college, you don't really play a ton of games. You play maybe 40, 50 games max if you have a good playoff run. And during that whole stretch, you're practicing day in and day out, and you're trying to hone your skills. And luckily enough, I played on good teams where there was good competition. So we didn't need to play in games necessarily to play against the best players. It was in practice, and that's where we got better. I think the only year I played a lot of games was in the USHL, and that was a big adjustment for me, but it got me ready for my next step to college and then pro. But certainly practice was a major emphasis when I was growing up.
Zach, how about yourself? How much extra time did you put into your game as a young player, either on the outdoor rinks up in the PN or unstructured play or just free time at the rink or even through practice? How important was that to your foundation and your development?
Yeah, definitely. It was huge. And especially, I think kind of later on, a little bit in the OHL, getting that extra time out on the ice to kind of work on stuff. And the biggest thing that I've noticed, though, as kind of going through my development, at least, is that each kind of level that you go through, you see how much better that next level practices. And like even coming to Providence and seeing the way these guys practice was incredible. And you kind of see the attention to detail on working on certain skills, and again, even like having fun with it. Like that's the biggest thing for me. I always find I get my best results when I'm having fun and I'm working on a skill that I want to work on or will make the game more fun if I get better at. So I think that's a nice kind of way that I like to look at things. But definitely, even at a young age, those practices were a ton of fun and pretty critical to our development.
Yeah, that's a great comment. The fun part of it, right, is so critical because obviously you guys are at the stage now where you're getting paid to do this and you're a professional player, but how important is passion with where you're at in your career right now? Obviously, Zach, you're a younger player. Paul, you've had your journey through, and your ups and downs, but a great career so far in college and pro. How important is that ability to just have fun and the passion piece?
Yeah, you need to have a love for this game, because if you don't and it starts feeling like a job, then you're probably in the wrong profession. I have a great time every day I go to the rink, and the energy and willingness to work hard and get better every day at your craft is something that is contagious in most teams that I played for, and it's definitely an ingredient for every team that's been successful that I've played for. You have to love the game. You got to love going to work. You got to love showing up. And usually that type of culture breeds success.
Yeah, and I would also, I'm remiss that I forgot to mention to everybody, if you do have a question for Zach or Paul in particular, and even myself, although I would rather have you steer it towards those two, you're more than welcome to drop a question in the question and answer box down at the bottom of the page on your screen. So that's an option for you for sure. And so I just wanted to show this because I think it's really important for people to understand. So this is a program with USA Hockey. It's our top 16 and 17-year-olds in the country. And I just wanted people to understand, especially for those of you that are getting into that, 14, 15, 16-year-old age range. Those players, they have 130 on-ice practices, 100 off-ice sessions, and they only play 50 games. And so the question that I have for all the players that are on the call is, what's your culture? What environment have you put yourself in to allow yourself to reach your full potential. Because to me, training and practice is king. Having fun and building passion through it as well. But the number of touches, the number of repetitions, the game-like situations in practice are so critical. Zach, talk to me a little bit about your development off ice. Like, how important is it, your conditioning level, your strength, all the little stuff that goes on behind the scenes that nobody sees?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember kind of starting my off ice training at around like 12 or 13. And again, it was pretty crucial for those years to not only get in the gym and start working on mobility and power and kind of what's going to translate on the ice, but it was kind of again finding my right culture and that right gym or like the right team that is surrounded around me to help me work and tell me a team that I can trust. And that's been huge for me in taking my game to the next level. I struggled a little bit with like on ice conditioning and stuff like that. So I got a new trainer and was working with him pretty extensively, and it seemed to really help me in the course of my career so far.
That's awesome. That's great answer there. And I know, Paul, college hockey, obviously. Did you have Coach Whitesides as a strength coach at BC?
No, I had Russ DeRosa.
Okay. So anyways, I got a question for you that actually comes from Dan O'Connor. And he just asked us a question. If you want to play college hockey after high school, even Division III hockey, do you have to play in some junior league or can you play out of high school? What kind of advice would you give Dan? It's a great question.
That is a good question. And I think it's very specific to each individual, depending on your development. If you need an extra year of growing, of maturing, and honing your skills, you might want to play juniors for a year and then make that jump. But I've also played with guys that are ready right out of high school and they can step in and be the best player in the team. So it really depends on each case individually. So I would say just take a step back, look at where you stand with your peers. And if you see guys going junior and you think that you need to go that route as well, I think that's a good step. Can't go wrong with that. But yeah, there's really no one answer for that. It's very specific to each kid.
That's awesome. And to kind of go back to the development piece, when we talk to NHL scouts, college recruiters, our coaches in our national program, I spent 20 years coaching college hockey myself and coaching our national teams. How important, Zach and Paul, you can both touch upon this a little bit, is the hockey sense part of the game. And if you think it's important, how do you develop that? Like, what did you do as a kid growing up that helped with your decision-making piece? Go ahead.
I watched a lot of hockey growing up, and whether it was live, going to watch high school games as a kid and picking out one guy on the ice and saying, all right, where is he going right now? When he doesn't have the puck, how does he become available? And I'd also watch games or even in practice, just pick a guy and say, I want to emulate what he's doing. And a lot of times the players with the higher hockey IQ seem to have more time and space with the puck and make more plays. And that's not by accident. That's by design.
Yeah, no, for sure. Zach, do you have a thought on that as well?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think being a student of the game is a big thing. And again, Paulie said it, where if you can look at a guy and say like, okay, I'm watching what this guy does well. And if you can even take one little thing from that guy's game and get something away from it, or even just trying it and seeing if it works for you, because each skill kind of works for a different guy differently. So I think just to kind of touch on that as well is don't be afraid to like talk to your teammates, talk to your coaches when you're like on the ice in practice or on the bench. Like one of my favorite things to do is kind of come back to the bench and talk to Paul and be like, hey, what did you see on that? Did I make the right play there? What did you see differently? Because again, it's again being okay with asking those questions and just being open for growth is the biggest thing.
Paul, I want you to just add upon something you just mentioned, and that's play away from the puck. How important is it to be a really good player off the puck?
it's everything. You can have all the skill in the world, but if you have no time and place to make plays, you know, it's hard to stand out. But on the other hand, if you're working hard away from the puck and you're getting open, you find yourself in situations where you're getting it and you've got plenty of time to see a play, make a play, find the open guy. And I mean, that's not really new either. I mean, you look back as far as you want, and all the best players seem to find a way to get open, and they knew where to get open too. It wasn't just a mistake.
Yeah, that's a big part of the game. I think that's misunderstood by a lot of people. Everybody falls in love with the great hands, the great feet, right? And the big, strong, fast. But we talk a lot about what is really skill, and that ability to read plays and make good decisions and put yourself in good spots is such an underrated part of the game, but so critical. Zach, I'm going to ask you a question here. Ivan Wasuri asked a question. What do you do when you feel like you can't score a goal or you're not performing well? How do you handle that?
Honestly, for me, personally, when I'm in kind of like in a drought or in a slump, as we call it, or snake bit, whatever, I find anytime I'm thinking about scoring that goal, I'm always gripping the stick tighter, and it does not help me at all. Kind of going back to what Paul was saying, I try to just focus on the stuff away from the puck, and again, doing the small details correctly. Again, am I getting my pucks out? Am I advancing pucks into the next zone? Am I doing the right things defensively? And then I find most of the time that results in a lot of offensive opportunities. Again, pucks start bouncing your way. You get that one lucky goal, and then all of a sudden the floodgates are open. All you need is, again, to worry about the things away from the puck. That offensive side, you'll find will take care of itself if you're doing the right things.
Yeah, how important is confidence in the game, Paul?
That's huge. Everyone's played with a guy who's on a streak or seems to score every time he gets the puck. It's everything. If you're confident and you're feeling good, stick with it. Don't get too high though, because that's also a trap. And never get too low. You just got to be confident, and the harder you work, usually the more confident you are on the ice.
Paul, we have 8-year-old Mason Haley, who's from Dracut, and she wants to know how it feels playing for your hometown Boston Bruins.
It's been a dream come true. It's been quite a crazy career. I've played all over the place, and finally to be home and close to family and everything like that, it's been awesome.
And for you, Zach, we have 10-year-old Adam Goddett. He wants to know what your favorite goal you ever scored in your career was.
I grew up like a big fan of like TSN. I watch my my morning highlights or your morning highlights every single morning, and definitely there was a goal I scored in the OHL where I got to go through the legs and score on a breakaway. I watched Merrick Malik do it in the shootout, and that was one of the coolest moments and one of the real jaw droppers for me as a kid. And to pull that one off was probably my favorite.
That's fantastic. Okay, for you, Paul, we got some great questions coming in from you, from the players on the call, and I really appreciate it. I think it's really speaks well of the group we have listening to tonight. From Ethan Machado, Paul, what would you, if you were to give Ethan some advice, what's the most important thing to becoming a really good hockey player?
Well, we've already touched upon a lot of things that are really important: confidence, passion, and all that leads into work ethic. And if you're not willing to put in the work, whether it's on the ice, after school, you're shooting pucks, you're stick handling, if you're not in the weight room or doing dry land training, you're just not gonna reach your full potential. So you gotta work as hard as you can. I know that's cliche, but me and Zach wouldn't be here unless we worked our butts off all growing up. And we had to sacrifice a lot of things, I'm sure, along the way, just chasing this dream.
Great answer. This is a question for both of you, and Zach, you can go first. It's from Javian Lopez, and Javian, I apologize if I butchered your first name there, but who's your favorite player growing up? Who's the person you tried to emulate and wanted to become when you got older?
So when I was growing up, I was the biggest like Sens fan here in Ottawa, and I'd have to say Danny Heatley when he scored 50 in '07. That was one of the coolest things for me, and really was one of the big reasons why I started like love scoring goals. And again, that was became my drive and my focus was scoring goals however I could. I saw how much fun they fun he was having, so that was probably my favorite guy growing up.
Paul?
Sergei Fedorov was my number one guy.
And why was that?
A little bit flashy, but he was good.
Not a bad, both really, really good players. Really, really good players. We have a question here from 8-year-old Leon Creston. What should I do to get faster? And how do I get better at skating? Paul, why don't you jump with that one first?
Well, Zach is a lot faster than me, but I'll try to answer this one.
We'll go to Zach next then.
Yeah, you gotta do a lot of work on and off the ice, squats, lunges, plyos, and I'm sure every town will get a strength coach or someone who can help you develop that. But I remember growing up specifically, Rob Griffin was my coach when I was about your age, and we would wear weight belts on the ice. I'm not sure if that was looking back, the best idea, but it worked, and it made it fun. But yeah, I think Zach can answer this one better than I can. He's the speed demon.
Zach, hopefully you weren't wearing weight vests at 8 years old up in.
I was not. Obviously, the off ice portion is big in gaining speed and power and explosiveness, but obviously lots of you are at different ages and different training levels right now. But if you're not able to again squat and again use those weights quite yet, there's tons of other ways that you can get faster and more explosive. Lots of like box jumps, and again, probably a trainer would be better qualified to answer that on the off ice side of things. But definitely lots of sprints and footwork with that kind of stuff. But on ice too, I've worked with tons of great skating coaches over the years, and finding a person you like and you trust, and again, someone that you believe in their program is huge. And I find that you can't really get too perfect at skating with your edges and again getting that extra step.
So here's a little bit of an answer from me on that question, because it's a great question. Because skating is really important part of the game, right? It's that's what makes hockey unique. Is we have to perform, on a really small piece of steel on ice. And so some of the people we compete against for medals in international play, the Finnish Ice Hockey Federation is really committed to an off-ice program, an age-appropriate off-ice program, where the players on the right are 10-year-olds, that they do this type of footwork and rhythm and agility, coordination, and balance. We call it the ABCs, agility, balance, and coordination. They do it for 35 minutes before every practice or after every practice. Then on the left-hand side is a group of 14-year-olds in Finland. And this is what they do. They do body weight stuff. They do hand-eye coordination stuff, age-appropriate training, for their athletes that's delivered as part of practice. So practice isn't just what happens on the ice over there. Practice is what happens off the ice as well. And I think it's really important for our players to understand that, because when we see some of our better American-born players and we test them with their agility, coordination, and balance, this is a group of 14 and 16-year-olds here in the United States, and you can see their lack of ability off the ice. You can see ketchup and mustard here on the back end. They can't do anything. And these are really good hockey players. So we ask ourselves is what's their base like? Is this going to hurt them on the ice? And we would say absolutely, because balance and coordination and agility is a huge part of skating, And so great answers by both of you. And we would also say that how skating's delivered for young athletes is really important compared to the older athletes. So let's see if we can find another really good. So M. Duggan, who's 7 years old, she wants to know, and we'll go to Paul first on this one. How do you deal with a mistake? Like, you're playing on the big stage. You might be playing in front of all your family and friends in Boston, and you make a big mistake, and how do you deal with that?
Well, I was taught that if you're not making mistakes, then you're not getting out of your comfort zone. And I think that quote's very true. I think that in order to get better, you need to stretch your limits. And in doing so, you're going to make mistakes. And as a pro, I make mistakes every day at the rink. You just got to laugh it off and get back in line and get ready for the next rep. And eventually you'll do it right, and people won't be laughing then.
Zach, how big is failure a part of the game of ice hockey?
Again, it's not just a big part of hockey, it's a big part of life. And I think Paulie made lots of great points. Like, again, you're going to fail, and you're just going to try to fail better. And you're going to try to, again, go back, get on that horse. But for me, making a big mistake, it's tough. Like, again, I have lots of those like little voices in my head during the games. And again, where you're like, oh, I made this mistake. And the biggest point is to not let it affect your whole entire game, and to trust yourself, trust your abilities, and know that, like, again, you're not going to make that mistake again, and learn from it. I think that's probably Paulie touched on it pretty well there.
Yeah, no, great answer by both you guys. And our game is a game of failure, and managing failure and learning through failure, and having good coaches that won't jump down your throat if you're working hard and trying to do the right thing, but it doesn't seem to work out for you every time. So we have a question from Cal and Carey. We'll go to you first, Zach. She's 9 years old, Cal and Carey. And what other sports did you play growing up?
Wow. I started, like, again, playing baseball. I played soccer for a long period of time. I played football for a while. Honestly, sports was my summer. That was my off season. I got to take my skates off for a couple months and play a different sport, get comfortable doing something else, get that same competitive juices flowing, but in a different way. I find it really helped me when the season came along, because again, I was ready to go. I was ready to get back to hockey, and I'd missed it for so long. But honestly, some of my best summers, again, were those summers where I was playing lots of other sports. I found got a lot of growth from other sports as well.
Paul, how about yourself?
I played organized soccer, baseball, all through high school. And then when I was younger, same thing. But the second I got home, I was out the door. I was playing basketball, football, legit anything we could get our hands on, we were playing.
Do you think it helped you in hockey?
I think that the cross training certainly helped me.
How about you, Zach?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about the unfortunate situation right now with COVID, and unfortunately, a lot of these kids that are on the call right now, the rinks have been shut down for a period of time. Some of them aren't able to play games, aren't able to do their normal routine. What have you guys been doing through the COVID, and how are you staying in shape? And do you have any suggestions for the kids that are on the call to kind of deal with that? Zach, why don't you go first?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, when I'm in Canada right now, but when we were on our kind of lockdown, I was doing lots of body weight stuff at home, and there's tons of again, even if you don't have a strength and conditioning coach, going on YouTube and searching kind of youth hockey specific stuff that you're able to do. You're able to find tons of great workouts and lifts that you're able to do there. Honestly, playing lots of sports. Again, I was fortunate enough to have my brother-in-law quarantining with me, and we were able to get out and do lots of different things, even like ping pong in the basement, or we would go outside and throw the football. Anything to kind of keep active and keep moving was the biggest thing for me.
How about you, Paul?
Very similar to Zach. We've both got our own trainers and coaches back home, and even with Providence and Boston that we use as resources to get body weight workouts from. And I was lucky enough to grab some weights and stuff from the rink and take home, and it's been great to have here. We have plenty of free time, so I've been just trying to work on those skills. And I'm in a little bit different boat than Zach and a lot of the younger viewers here. The time off has actually been great for me too, because I need to recover, rest, and my body's been banged up over the years, so
Yeah.
I use that to my advantage as well.
So we have Nicola Montagano from Montreal on the call, but a huge Bruins fan. Imagine that, right? The unicorn up there. The question that is asked from Nicola is, what do you do to improve your stick handling? What do you do to work on your hands? Paul, why don't you start with that?
As a kid, we used anything like a golf ball, a wooden ball. We even used to cut up tennis balls and stick them inside of wiffle balls and stick handle with those. Anything to get our hands going. Yeah, I mean, you can set your gloves up, anything. Use any prop around your house or in your backyard and just work on your hands. But I don't think there's any wrong answer to that. Just as long as you have a stick in your hands and a ball or a puck at the end of it, you're going to be improving.
How about you, Zach?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got kind of one of those kind of clear plexiglass things that I've got a kind of couple pucks in my sticks in the garage where I'm able to kind of stick handle a little bit and do some stuff like that. But even like ball hockey and stuff growing up was huge for me and kind of developing my hands a little bit. But now that I've kind of been able to get some more tools at least. I find that I'm able to kind of run through a little bit of drills, do some kind of more game specific stuff where I'm able to, again, use some moves and some motions at least that I know I'll be using and I'm trying to smooth out during the course of a game or a practice even.
Next question for you. It's really, I think it's a great question from Mason Bond. At what age did you realize you had the talent to go to the next level? What age did that click for you, Zach? And maybe you said, you know what, I might be able to do something with this.
I think probably when I was 16 or 17 is when I started to know I had a shot. I think definitely I knew I was going to get a chance to make it a profession when I was 17, 18, 17 during my draft year. And I was kind of having chats with my advisor, my agent, for again, OHL guy agent. But yeah, no, he kind of told me that teams were looking at me for the draft. And then that's when I kind of knew when some of the rankings came out, I kind of had a shot to go. But I just try to focus on kind of the small achievements. Am I going to get to this? How am I going to get to this next level? How am I going to get to this next step? And just kind of not, I wasn't looking too far ahead. I was just more kind of making those small victories.
Paul, how about yourself?
Very similar to Zach. I was a bit of a late bloomer. I think my sophomore, junior year is when I
of college?
Of high school that I started to emerge as a college player.
Oh, okay.
And I started getting some looks there. And that was a tough time because a lot of my buddies were committing to school when they were freshmen early in their sophomore season. So it's hard not to compare yourself to them, but you just stick to the process. And eventually, you'll get the looks and exposure. And then I found myself at BC. And it wasn't really until later on in my career at BC that I thought I could make a pro career out of it. And it was the same thing. Like guys would leave early after 1 year, 2 year, and you just gotta stick to your guns, keep working, and eventually it came true.
We'll do a couple more here because there's some really good ones, and then we'll shut it down. But Owen Bowen is 14 years old. When did you start to get serious about becoming a hockey player? When did it really start to kind of click in that, you know what, I want to get good. Oops, I got a little echo here. You guys know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I think
you go, Paulie.
I'd say going into high school is when I started taking it serious. I wanted to make the varsity team. I wanted to play in college because I knew that it would open up doors for me that weren't there outside of athletics, and it certainly helped me. But yeah, so getting ready for high school, 7th, 8th grade, that's when I really bared down and started focusing on hockey. And so leading into high school is when that hit for me.
For me, definitely growing up in Canada, in Ottawa, in an NHL city. I grew up with a hockey stick in my hand ever since I could come out of could put on skates. I knew I wanted to play in the NHL, but I think I started getting serious about hockey and kind of dialed in training and nutrition and stuff like that in my like OHL draft year when I was, I'd probably say when I was like 13 or 14. Again, that 13, 14 year is kind of when you start dialing it in for us here in Canada, at least.
I muted myself just 'cause I thought maybe my echo was my fault. We got one more question here, and it's I think it's a really good one here too. We have Kurt Victor from Andover, Mass. What do you do on game day to get ready? What's your routine? Might be a little bit different than a youth hockey player. I'm sure it was different than when you played when you were 10 or 11. But what's your routine like right now?
So normally we get to the rink and we'll do our meetings in the morning at around like 9 o'clock. And then there's like a morning skate around 10. So in the morning we'll go over like our PK video and we'll go over kind of just some notes for the upcoming game for that night. And then we'll go out and skate for no more than like 30 minutes, I'd say. And then kind of start getting yourself ready for the game, like either riding the bike, getting a good stretch in, maybe getting some treatment from the trainers. And then we make our way to Andino's for our pregame meal. We get our nutrition in us, and then we normally take a nap around 1 o'clock, and either again normally like a 90-minute nap, and then wake up and have a small snack before heading off to the game, or like a 7 o'clock game for around like 4 o'clock. We'll probably head out.
Paul, do you have any routines that you do that might be something that, little good luck for you, or?
Very similar to Zach. I sit right next to him at Andino's for that pasta, but no, I like to stay loose going into the games. I don't really have any superstitions. If I did, that would be it. Just kind of stay loose, get warm, play a little bit of soccer with the guys, and make sure that I'm ready mentally, just as I am physically, whether that's going over some clips with the coaches or studying the other team's roster or their systems. All that stuff really helps. You can't know enough going into the game when it comes to that.
Fantastic. One last quick question, just to kind of finish up the night here for all the players. Are both of you still working on your game? Are you still doing things at the stage you're at? You're both being paid really good money to play a game that you love. Are you satisfied with where you're at? Or are you still trying to get to the next rung on the ladder?
Yeah, I'm
absolutely.
never happy with where my game's at. Especially now that I'm a little bit older, I got to do everything I can to keep up with these young guys. It's fun because they're pushing the game further and further along. It's getting faster, more skilled, and it's fun too because they push you to get better every day. And I pride myself in being able to keep up with these young kids that are flying around.
Zach?
Just a counterpoint. I'm like, I think as a young guy coming up, again, I've practiced with Paul so many times, and I'm still like amazed at some of the skills that he has and some of the stuff that he's learned over the course of his career. So again, there's so much to learn, and there's always another skill and something to get better at. So again, know that those older guys too, they've been in the league for a long time for a reason, and make sure to watch them and to learn, because again, you can never be good enough unless you're McDavid.
Paul, I got a newsflash for you. You're not that old.
I feel like it sometimes.
No, hey, I'm certainly on behalf of USA Hockey and Mass Hockey and all the people on the call. A huge thank you to both of you. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully the players got some really good tidbits that they can, put in their back pocket and use to help their career move forward. We wish you all the best. Both of you are going to be huge fans now to watch you guys and follow you guys and see where you head in the next year or so here. Wish you all the best. And for everybody on the call, be safe. Have a great Thanksgiving. And thank you for taking the time to come out and talk hockey with us tonight. Paul, Zach, thank you very much.
Thanks, Roger, and thanks for everyone tuning in. Good luck.
Thanks, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Good luck.
Good night, everybody.